Welcome to the Route 419 and Route 220 Diverging Diamond Interchange in Roanoke and Roanoke County Virtual Design Public Hearing. We appreciate your interest in this project. This is the agenda for the public hearing this afternoon. First, we will briefly go over the public hearing and public comment process. Next, we will review the project history and provide an overview. Then, we will share the project details. Finally, we will share an overview of the environmental documentation and the proposed right-of-way information. At the end of this video presentation, you will have an opportunity to ask questions. Given the unique circumstances of the COVID-19 outbreak, along with our commitment to protecting public health during this national emergency, VDOT is conducting this virtual design public hearing to avoid in-person contact. This presentation will cover the same information that Salem District staff would have shared during an in-person hearing. However, the comment process will be different. Details on how to submit your comments and have your questions addressed will be covered later in this presentation. All project information can be found on VDOT's website. Before we continue with the hearing, we want to review some guidelines so everyone can participate and get the most out of this hearing. Attendees will be muted throughout the duration of the hearing to minimize background noise and to ensure that all participants can hear. WebEx participants will have an opportunity to ask questions using the chat feature at the end of this presentation. When the chat feature is on, all WebEx participants will be able to see all messages. We ask that only questions be written into the chat. The chat feature should not be used for any other type of commentary during the hearing. The moderator will read the questions aloud and they will be answered. Any individual who does not abide by our ground rules or who submits anything inappropriate will be removed from the meeting. This public hearing is being held to receive and consider comments for the Route 419 and Route 220 Diverging Diamond Interchange project. You may have attended previous public hearings conducted by VDOT. However, for the benefit of those who have not attended one, we would like to explain why VDOT conducts a public hearing. A public hearing has four essential purposes. First, to inform the public of project status and present the current preliminary design. Second, to describe the project, so citizens can see how they may be affected by the proposed improvements. Third, to provide the public an opportunity to see the proposed improvements and express their views prior to the design being finalized. Fourth, the hearing is also used to develop a record of official public comment to be included as part of the project documentation. Your comments will be received in three ways. First, you may submit a comment using the email address listed on the screen, which is jesseweitzenfeld@vdot.virginia.gov. That's jesse.weizenfeld@vdot.virginia.gov. Please reference Route 419/220 DDI in the subject line. Second, comments may also be mailed to the Virginia Department of Transportation. Attention, Jesse Weizenfeld, 731 Harrison Avenue, Salem, Virginia, 24153. Finally, an online comment form is available on the project website, listed on this slide. Comments must be received by July 9th, 2021, to be included as part of the official public hearing record. While questions asked in the chat feature at the end of the hearing will be answered, these questions will not be included in the official public hearing record. So, if you would like your comments included in the hearing record, please use one of the three methods I just described. Every day, tens of thousands of Roanoke area residents rely on Route 419 and US Route 220 to travel to work, school, and other activities. Route 419, also known as Electric Road, currently carries approximately 40,000 vehicles per day in this area, with Route 220 serving 52,000 vehicles per day. The Route 419 corridor and the Tanglewood Mall area have historically served as a commercial, social, and cultural center for the communities in southern Roanoke County and the city of Roanoke. county planners have completed a planning study called the 419 Town Center Plan, adopted by the Board of Supervisors in 2019 to set a foundation for reinventing this area by improving connectivity and walkability while supporting mixed-use redevelopment. Roadway improvements to enhance traffic flow and safety on the Route 419 corridor are just one component of the county's future vision. More information about Roanoke County's 419 Town Center Plan can be found on the county's website at roanokecountyva.gov/419. Before we discuss the Route 419 and Route 220 Diverging Diamond Interchange project that is the focus of this public hearing, we want to briefly share some information about two other projects along the Route 419 and Route 220 corridors. VDOT, working closely with Roanoke County, is constructing a project to improve approximately 0.4 of a mile of Route 419 approaching the Route 220 interchange. This project, currently being built in front of Tanglewood Mall, will provide a third eastbound lane along Route 419, as well as sidewalks and bicycle lanes in the area in between Ogden Road and the ramps to Route 220. Work is anticipated to be completed later this year. Another project that VDOT has been developing is the Route 220 corridor intersection improvements. To achieve the maximum benefit from the future Diverging Diamond interchange at the junction of Route 419 and Route 220, improvements at the adjacent signalized intersections on both these corridors are needed. The Route 220 corridor intersection project will improve 7 signalized intersections along Route 220 between Roanoke and Martinsville, including 2 intersections in the city of Roanoke and Roanoke County at Valley Avenue and Southern Hills Drive, and at Crossbow Circle and Pheasant Ridge Road. This project is intended to reduce congestion and enhance traffic flow and safety through the interchange area and along the entire Route 220 corridor. A public hearing on the Route 220 corridor intersection improvements was held in April 2021, and construction is tentatively scheduled to begin in 2024. Now we will discuss the project background, project purpose, and details of the proposed Diverging Diamond interchange improvements at the junction of Route 419 and Route 220. Even with the construction project underway on Route 419 in front of Tanglewood Mall, additional improvements are needed to serve current and future traffic demands. The extensive delays and congestion that occur along Route 419 during the peak hours will worsen in the future without improvements. There are particular challenges at the signalized intersections of Route 419 and South Peak Boulevard. Also, the Route 419 and Route 220 interchange will continue to experience congestion with traffic backing up the ramps onto Route 220, particularly during peak travel times. To address these issues, improvements to the Route 419 and Route 220 interchange were initially recommended in 2017 as part of the 419 Town Center Plan community engagement. The plan was adopted by the Roanoke County Board of Supervisors in 2019. Reconfiguring the interchange at Route 419 and Route 220 as a Diverging Diamond Interchange, or DDI, was identified as the best solution to reduce congestion and improve traffic flow. There are several benefits of the DDI design, such as improved safety. DDIs reduce the number of points where vehicles may cross paths, which decreases the potential for crashes. Increased efficiency. The crossover intersections at a DDI operate with fewer traffic signal phases, which allows the interchange to handle a greater volume of traffic, operate with less delay than conventional interchange types, and better accommodate pedestrian traffic. Reduced footprint. The proposed DDI configuration requires less space than other interchange configurations, reducing right-of-way needs and impacts to adjacent properties. Motorists who use the I-581 interchange at Valley View Mall in Roanoke will be familiar with the Diverging Diamond concept and its benefits. The diverging diamond interchange would consist of two signalized intersections where Route 419 traffic temporarily crosses to the opposite side of the road. Drivers simply follow their lanes and the traffic signals to complete these crossover movements. Signs and pavement markings will help drivers remain in the correct lane as they travel. So, how would the new interchange function at Route 419 and Route 220? For this discussion, Route 419 is assumed to run east-west, and Route 220 is assumed to run north-south. Approaching from the west, Tanglewood Mall area, along Route 419. Traffic destined for Route 220 south towards Rocky Mount would turn right, very similar to how this movement occurs today. Traffic destined for Route 220 northbound towards downtown Roanoke or I-581 would travel through the first crossover intersection onto the opposite side of the road and then exit to the left onto the ramp to Route 220 northbound. Traffic could access this ramp from either the left or center lanes along Route 419. Traffic continuing along Route 419 would pass through both crossover intersections as shown. If you are traveling to Route 220, the DDI configuration makes it simple to know which lanes to use. If you are turning right, stay in the right lane. If you are turning left, use the left lanes. Approaching from the east along Electric Road. Traffic destined for Route 220 north towards downtown Roanoke or I-581 would turn right, very similar to how this movement occurs today. Traffic destined for Route 220 southbound towards Rocky Mount would travel through the first crossover intersection and then exit to the left onto the ramp to Route 220 southbound. Traffic would access this ramp from the left lane along Electric Road. Traffic continuing along Route 419 would pass through both crossover intersections as shown. Southbound traffic approaching from Roanoke along Route 220. Traffic destined for westbound Electric Road towards Tanglewood Mall and Salem will turn right from the dual right turn lanes. This is similar to how the movement is made today. Traffic destined for eastbound Electric Road and Franklin Road towards the city of Roanoke will bear to the left as they proceed down the off-ramp. From there, they will enter Electric Road and pass through the crossover intersection. Northbound traffic approaching from Clearbrook along Route 220. Traffic destined for eastbound Electric Road and Franklin Road towards the city of Roanoke will turn right as they proceed down the off-ramp. This is similar to how this movement is made today. Traffic destined for westbound Electric Road towards Tanglewood Mall and Salem will bear left along the off-ramp. From there, they will enter Electric Road and pass through the crossover intersection. Cyclists will be able to travel through the intersection as well, using dedicated bike lanes. These bike lanes will connect to the ones already in place within the city of Roanoke section of Franklin Road and the bike lanes being constructed as part of the Route 419 project in front of Tanglewood Mall. As a reminder, bicycles are not permitted along Route 220 north of Electric Road. The diverging diamond will not change that restriction. Pedestrian traffic will also be accommodated. Pedestrians will use marked crossings to access a walkway in the median of Route 419, with push buttons and pedestrian signals provided at certain locations. The orange line shows the path that pedestrians will follow through the interchange. The proposed pedestrian accommodations will connect to existing facilities on both sides of the interchange and are consistent with long-range pedestrian plans for both the city of Roanoke and Roanoke County. While the proposed reconfiguration of the interchange as a DDI will provide safety and operational benefits, additional improvements are needed along Electric Road. Currently, the interchange serves as the bottleneck or choke point along the corridor. Once the interchange is improved, more traffic will be able to pass through it during peak travel times, which would exceed the capacity of the adjacent intersections. The intersections at Ogden Road, Elmview Road, and South Peak Boulevard will need to be modified to operate more efficiently, or they will become the new bottlenecks after the DDI is constructed. At each location, certain low-volume traffic movements will be rerouted, allowing for a reduction in the number of phases at the signal and increasing green time for all other drivers. We will now discuss the modifications at the 3 signalized intersections along the Route 419 corridor. At Ogden Road, traffic exiting the bank from the main entrance will only be allowed to turn right onto Electric Road. Left turns and through movements from this parcel would turn right and then make a U-turn at the adjacent Elmview Road signal. At the intersection of Elmview Road and South Peak Boulevard, a thru-cut intersection is proposed. What exactly is a thru-cut? Basically, a thru-cut intersection implements a change for motorists who currently drive straight across Route 419 from a side street at signalized intersections. Instead of driving directly across Route 419, these drivers will turn left or right at the signal and can turn directly into businesses or use a nearby signal to make a U-turn to reach their destinations. You might ask what's changing with the thru-cut improvements. The thru-cut only reroutes motorists who currently drive straight across Route 419 at a signal. Notably, this is less than 1% of all traffic that uses the intersections in this area. This change eliminates a signal phase. With fewer signal phases, more green time can be provided on Route 419. More green time means less delays for drivers. In addition, yield signs will be installed to control right turns from the side streets. This will enable cars turning right to proceed whenever a gap in traffic becomes available. Finally, pedestrian accommodations will be provided as needed. So, what's staying the same? No traffic signals are being removed. Also, drivers can still turn left and right from side streets onto Route 419. And Route 419 motorists can still turn onto side streets or drive eastbound or westbound on Route 419 as they do today. This sequence of graphics shows how time is divided between the various signal phases for a typical intersection on a busy corridor. A signal phase serves a movement or group of movements which are allowed to enter the intersection at the same time. Next, you can see how time is divided between the various signal phases with a thru-cut in place. By only requiring 3 signal phases at most intersections, more green time can be provided to higher volume movements at the intersection. At Elmview Road, a thru-cut intersection is proposed. The low-volume through movements from the side streets, in this case Elmview Road and one of the exits from Tanglewood Mall, would be rerouted. To access the mall from Elmview Road, traffic could turn right and then make a left into Tanglewood Mall at the signal at South Peak Boulevard. To access Elmview Road from the mall, traffic could turn right and make a U-turn at Ogden Road or exit the mall opposite South Peak Boulevard and turn left onto Elmview Road. At South Peak Boulevard, a modified thru-cut is proposed. Traffic wishing to go straight across Electric Road from South Peak Boulevard could turn left and then make a right into Tanglewood Mall at the signal at Elmview Road. Traffic wishing to go straight across Electric Road from Tanglewood Mall could turn right and make a U-turn at Elmview Road or exit the mall opposite Elmview Road and turn right onto South Peak Boulevard. Left and right turns from Tanglewood Mall would be allowed. Along South Peak Boulevard, left turns would be allowed onto Electric Road. Traffic from South Peak Boulevard destined for Electric Road and the Route 220 interchange would no longer be able to turn right at the traffic light. Other options are available to make this movement, such as accessing Route 220 from South Peak Boulevard and Valley Avenue. Vehicles would still be able to turn into and out of Wendy's from South Peak Boulevard and Electric Road. The graphics show how the traffic signal at this intersection would operate. The proposed intersection improvements on Route 419, in conjunction with the DDI, will improve the traffic flow and mobility on the entire corridor and provide other benefits. Drivers will experience shorter wait times due to fewer signal phases. Safety is also enhanced because the number of rear-end collisions is reduced by decreasing stop-and-go traffic. Crashes may be reduced by as much as 15 to 20%. The thru-cut design also improves the corridor at a cost that is significantly less than traditional widening. In addition, these improvements would provide opportunities to enhance pedestrian safety by adding new crosswalks and other features at some locations. Without these improvements, traffic congestion is expected to constrain future growth and travel along Route 419 and Route 220. Now let's discuss the project schedule. Preliminary engineering is underway. After the public hearing, we will receive comments until July 9th, 2021. VDOT expects to begin acquiring the necessary right-of-way and easements for this project in early 2023. In early 2024, the project will be advertised for contractors to submit bids for construction. Once bids have been received and the lowest qualified bidder is identified, construction is tentatively expected to begin in mid-2024 and be completed in late 2026. The total anticipated cost for this project is $17.5 million. This includes preliminary engineering, right-of-way, and construction costs. This project is funded with federal and state funds. During construction, there will be impacts to traffic, but we're working to minimize the disruptions as much as possible. 2 lanes of traffic in each direction will be maintained during peak traffic hours throughout the duration of the project. Drivers can expect temporary lane closures outside of peak travel times, as well as the potential for narrowed travel lanes, lane shifts, and shoulder closures. Turning movements may be redirected at times during construction, but access to businesses will still be available. This project has been evaluated for potential environmental impacts in accordance with the National Environmental Policy Act of 1969. The NEPA Act is an umbrella encompassing a variety of legislation passed over the years aimed at protecting air and water quality, archaeological and historical assets, reducing noise, and numerous other issues. Through the evaluation, it was determined that the project will not individually or cumulatively have significant environmental impacts that would require an environmental assessment or an environmental impact statement. Therefore, the project qualifies for a programmatic categorical exclusion level of NEPA documentation under federal regulations. The programmatic categorical exclusion was approved by the Federal Highway Administration in March of 2021 and is available on the project website. Next, we'll provide you with some information regarding the anticipated right-of-way impacts for this project. There will be less than an acre of proposed right-of-way needed for the project, with no businesses, residents, or nonprofit organizations being displaced. The right-of-way will be acquired from multiple properties along the project corridor and on either side of Route 419. This will include permanent and temporary easements for construction, stormwater facilities, and utilities. All right-of-way acquisitions will be completed in accordance with the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Policies Act of 1970 as amended in 1987. To see specific locations of proposed right-of-way impacts, please visit the project website and view the right-of-way data sheet and plan sheets. This is the preliminary right-of-way data sheet that is available on the project website. This sheet lists all the right-of-way impacts that were identified during the preliminary design phase. As design on the project progresses, these proposed right-of-way impacts may be adjusted as necessary to accommodate the final design. The property owners will be informed of the property impacts and easements during the right-of-way acquisition process prior to construction. The acquisition of necessary rights-of-way for this project will follow federal and state laws and VDOT policies and procedures. The Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Policy Act of 1970, known as the Uniform Act, is the federal law that is followed for appraisals, negotiations, and relocations of families and businesses. Each property will undergo a valuation process to determine the fair market value for each acquisition. The right-of-way negotiator will communicate with the landowner to answer questions and complete this process. For more information about right-of-way acquisition, please reference VDOT's brochure entitled Right-of-Way and Utilities, a guide for property owners and tenants. The brochure is available on VDOT's website. That concludes the detailed information about the project. Now I'd like to remind you of the ways comments can be provided. Comments will be accepted in 3 ways. You may submit a comment by email to the address listed on this slide. Comments can also be mailed to the Virginia Department of Transportation, attention Jesse Weitzenfeld, 731 Harrison Avenue, Salem, Virginia 24153. An online comment form is also available on the project website listed on this slide. Comments must be received or postmarked by July 9th, 2021, which is 10 days after the virtual design public hearing. While questions asked in the chat function at the end of the hearing will be answered, these questions will not be included in the official public hearing record. So, if you would like your comments included in the official public hearing record, please use one of the 3 methods that I just discussed. This concludes our presentation, and we encourage you to stay informed. If you do not have questions and decide to leave the meeting, we want to thank you for attending this virtual public hearing. The plans and this presentation, including graphics, are posted to our website, listed on this slide. The recording of this public hearing will be available at a later date.